So one of the indicators I like to look at in the economy is the consumer confidence. Now, in the UK, we have one from GfK. They're the organisation that produce the data. And in America, you have the University of Michigan, which produces the consumer sentiment data. So quite interesting. And what I like to look at here is like the level of optimism. So effectively, what the organisations are trying to do is score the level of optimism from your average consumer and put it onto a scale and chart it. So the charts are on different scales. For example, what is effectively 100 on the US scale is more like 0 on the UK. So it doesn't mean that the US is better or worse or anything like that. It just is a different scale. And different countries have their own different scales as well, if you're interested. So if you pop onto a website called Trading Economics, you can have a look at different calendars, economic calendars. And they're pretty useful if you're trading on news-based stories or news releases like inflation data, CPI data, non-farm payrolls, etc. You can find the information there, and you can look at past forecasts, current expectations, and so on. So anyway, in my research, in what I was reading, the sentiment for a lot of countries is actually really high at the moment, or rather it is accelerating at the moment. So people are more optimistic than they have been previously. So, for example, in the US, the current sentiment has soared in January 2024. So it's the highest it's been for about 3 years, since July 21. And basically a higher number is more optimistic. So it basically dropped off a cliff in 2020 for some reason. I'll let you figure out why. And it went as low as it has been in May and November 2023 to around 60, just above and just below. But July was the most optimistic month last year with around 70. So basically, if you consider January and December, the past 2 months, it's a cumulative gain of 29% in consumer confidence, and that is the largest since 1991. So your mean for 2023 was about 66. The record low in June of 22 was about 50, and the record high was January 2000 of about 111. So in terms of all-time averages since the 50s, in 1952 when it started, or when my data goes back to, we have around 85 as being the average, but it has been lower in recent years. So at the moment, like I say, it has boosted up a little bit, and people are more optimistic. Now in the UK, I mentioned the scale is different, and so a 0 is more akin to the 100 in the US. So, for example, 2008, the financial crisis, it went to minus 40 almost. And in 2020 it was hovering in the minus 30s, and then September 22 it was almost minus 50. So in the UK, that was when we had all sorts of political nonsense going on, and basically the pound crashed to some pretty interesting levels that happened very quickly, and for that reason, obviously sentiment was very low. We were looking at high inflation and the thought of rates raising and raising and raising, all the way to the moon with those interest rates. So everyone with an unfixed mortgage or some sort of consumer debt is basically going to have to start paying a lot more. So at the moment, like I say, the sentiment has really boosted up, and people are optimistic. So I'm curious, what do you think about the economic situation of the world, or the perhaps political situation? Do you think things are improving? Are you optimistic about 2024? Are you full of glee and optimism as you look at the world around you? Or does that just seem like total nonsense? Well, that's what average people on the street have been polled, and that's what the data is saying. So I'm curious what you think. Do you agree, or do you think this perhaps survey is rigged somehow? I don't believe it's rigged. I personally think it probably is about right. You know, it's the sentiment of the people. Perhaps January is a more optimistic month than others. You know, maybe people are thinking, you know, it's spring soon, all that. They've had that Christmas break and there's a New Year optimism. Maybe that's what it is. And maybe when we get to March and there's another rate rise or something, it'll soon dampen people's hopes and dreams and slam them back to reality, perhaps. So who knows? So I'm curious, what do you think of the sentiment? You know, do you think it is going the right way? Do you think we should be more optimistic or more pessimistic? You know, are we heading down a big dark hole with no return? I'm curious what you think, guys. So let me know in the comments. I'm looking forward to discussing with you all. And we'll see you on the next video.